Picture this. You're driving home on a dark, rainy night, and out of nowhere, a car swerves directly into your lane. Before you can even consciously process the danger, your foot is already slammed on the brakes. Your heart is absolutely pounding. Think about that for a second. Your body took action before your conscious mind even realized what was going on. Welcome to this explainer, where we're going to unpack the incredibly fascinating dual nature of fear. We'll see how it acts as our ultimate evolutionary protector, and sometimes our own personal prison. Okay, here's our roadmap for today. First, the biology of survival. Second, the roots of our fears. Third, what happens when the alarm misfires. Fourth, the business of fear. And fifth, rewiring your brain. But right off the bat, we've got to ask a super fascinating question about this paradox in our own brains. Why is it that millions of us will willingly hand over good money to be chased by actors with fake chainsaws in a haunted house, yet we completely panic when we're just asked to introduce ourselves at a totally safe morning meeting? Well, it all comes down to one crucial distinction. You see, danger and fear are actually not the same thing. Danger is objective. It's a speeding car, right? But fear? Fear is subjective. Our brains are essentially giant prediction machines, constantly scanning the environment. And guess what? Your brain is hardwired to prefer triggering a subjective false alarm over a harmless garden hose, rather than risk missing a genuinely objective danger, like a venomous snake. Better safe than sorry. Literally.
All right, let's jump right into section 1, the biology of survival, and take a look inside the brain's lightning-fast fear circuit.
What we're talking about here is known as the low road of the fear circuit, and it is blazing fast. Here's how it works. Sensory data hits your thalamus, which is basically the brain's relay station. It sends that information instantly to the amygdala, our internal alarm system. The amygdala asks one very simple question: could this hurt us? If the answer is yes, it immediately signals the hypothalamus to mobilize the body. And the craziest part? This entire sequence reacts to shadows and sounds long before your prefrontal cortex, the logical part of your brain, can even form a conscious thought. Boom! Within seconds of that alarm sounding, you get an adrenaline dump. It's nature's instant booster shot, and your body totally transforms. Your heart races to pump more oxygen, your pupils dilate to let in more light, and your liver dumps stored glucose right into your bloodstream for instant energy. And you know how your stomach sometimes drops when you're scared? That's because digestion literally halts. Your body instantly decides, look, right now is definitely not the time to digest that sandwich. Every single resource is violently redirected toward pure survival. So once you're mobilized, the body chooses a strategy. We've all heard of fight or flight, right? But we almost always forget about freezing, and it's just as crucial. Instead of running or throwing a punch, the body becomes perfectly motionless. Your breathing goes shallow, and the brain rapidly gathers information. It might feel like you're paralyzed, but freezing is actually a deeply rooted, ancient evolutionary tactic to avoid being spotted by predators who are drawn to movement. Moving right along to section 2, the roots of our fears, evolutionary preparedness and ancient instincts. If we rewind the clock hundreds of millions of years, fear was incredibly basic, just primitive threat detection and hiding. But as early humans evolved, everything changed. We combine that raw instinct with complex intelligence. Suddenly, we gain the ability to anticipate and actually imagine future dangers. We could fear a disease before any symptoms showed up, or worry about an enemy before a battle even started. Imagination became humanity's greatest superpower, but at the same time, it became our greatest source of fear. And because our ancient ancestors lived in a brutal world filled with constant natural dangers, natural selection gave us a little something scientists call prepared learning. We are literally biologically biased to fear specific things. Heights, the dark where nocturnal predators hide, sudden loud noises, and isolation. Think about that last one. For ancient humans, being separated from the social group drastically dropped your chances of survival, which honestly is exactly why modern social rejection, like bombing a public speech, feels so terrifying today. Which brings us to section 3, when the alarm misfires. Let's talk about anxiety, phobias, and the modern stress epidemic. This distinction right here is absolutely massive for understanding modern mental health. Fear is all about the present. It's a car speeding right at you. Anxiety, on the other hand, is about the future. It's the psychological anticipation of a possible threat. Basically, anxiety is simply your brain getting trapped in a state of permanent alertness for a danger that hasn't even arrived yet. So, the really crucial takeaway here is that getting nervous or feeling afraid before taking an exam or speaking up in a meeting is not a sign of weakness. It's really not a character flaw. It's just a sign that your ancient biological system is doing exactly what it was designed to do, reacting to a perceived social threat. True courage isn't about magically shutting that system off. It's about taking action while the alarm bells are ringing in your head. But there's a huge catch. When that alarm never turns off, we pay a heavy price. Chronic stress keeps hormones, especially cortisol, constantly pumping through our bodies. Over time, that excessive cortisol takes a brutal toll. It weakens our immune function, ruins our sleep, and even contributes to heart disease. It's a pretty stark reminder that our fear system was brilliantly built for a 5-minute emergency, not for a 5-year stressful job. Let's shift gears to section 4, the business of fear. We're going to look at how media, algorithms, and entertainment actively leverage our biology. It really all boils down to something called the negativity bias. Think about it. Missing a predator was literally fatal for our ancestors, while missing a beautiful sunny day, not a big deal at all. Because of that, our brains naturally give way more weight to potential threats. This bias basically guarantees that frightening information is going to capture our attention instantly. And man, does the modern world know how to exploit this ancient biological quirk. It's the whole foundation of our attention economy. Everything from doom scrolling on social media to political campaigns and 24-hour news leverages our negativity bias to keep our eyes glued to the screen. But there's a flip side, recreational fear. When we know we're actually completely safe, surviving a simulated threat, like riding a massive roller coaster or watching a horror movie, triggers a massive dopamine release. We literally get a chemical high from the relief of surviving. Finally, section 5, rewiring your brain, neuroplasticity, and empowering the mind. For the longest time, people just assumed that phobias and traumas were a life sentence. But modern science has shown us that's just not true. Thanks to neuroplasticity, our brains are constantly changing. Every new experience and every challenge actually reshapes the tiny connections between billions of neurons. This means your brain can actually learn a completely new, healthy, safe response to old fears. So by using targeted therapies, like gradually facing triggers through exposure therapy or rewiring thought patterns with cognitive behavioral therapy, we aren't just, talking it out. We are physically reorganizing the fear circuits in our brains. We're actively calming the amygdala's alarm and building up a highly resilient prefrontal cortex. It's a process called fear extinction. You aren't erasing the old memory. You're forming a stronger, brand new memory that confidently says, hey, this situation is safe. At the end of the day, fear isn't the bad guy. It's a biological masterpiece. It's a deeply ancient system that kept our ancestors alive long enough to build the modern world we live in today. So the next time your heart starts racing right before a big moment, just remember, that's literally just your biology trying its best to protect you.
The real question is, will you let that ancient alarm system lock you in a cage, or will you use your modern brain to step forward anyway? Thank you so much for exploring this explainer with me. I really hope it changes the way you view your own biology.